Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So, guys, I've been asked a question. Um, is Canelo Alvarez still the face of boxing? Um, has Tyson Fury taken over that mantle? Has Tyson Fury got a possible? Is Tyson Fury somebody that can be pound for pound over Spence, Crawford, and Canelo? I'm gonna answer these questions. Is Tyson Fury the biggest star in boxing over Canelo at this point? Tyson Fury is a massive star. And you know, the thing is with Tyson Fury is a personality. See, the advantage he's got over Canelo is that Tyson Fury is he's like a McGregor type figure. You know, where he's loud, brash. You know, he draws a lot of people to his attention. You know, he's very good at that. Canelo's a soft spoken. He doesn't really do a lot of trash talking. He's to himself. Like, yeah, if you to say something to him, yeah, he'll bite back. But Tyson Fury, without doubt, is a massive star. And of late, I think Tyson Fury's fights were quite boring back in the day. They're now quite exciting. You know, Tyson Fury's changed up his style, and he's a completely different man now. He's a completely different fighter. So I personally think that Tyson Fury is a massive star, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's earning money which is near Canelo. I think Canelo is definitely making more money, and also Canelo's more active than Fury. I would say this. You guys might disagree with this. I would say Tyson Fury might be known more globally. He might be more globally recognized around the world. However, the support that Canelo Alvarez gets from his fan base and from where he is in America and Mexico makes him a bigger star, so to speak, because I think when Canelo Alvarez fights, there's more eyes watching from not all over the world compared to, like, when I say all over the world, I would say Canelo has a huge fan base from his own people. I think that's why he does great pay-per-view numbers. But I don't think you can compare Canelo and Fury at this point, because Canelo's done multiple pay-per-views that have done, like the Mayweather one. I know that was Mayweather as well, but he did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Then I believe the Golovkin, if I'm not mistaken, that did 1 million pay-per-views. So Canelo's been involved in a lot of big fights. You know, his last fight against Plant did 790,000 pay-per-views. And let's be honest, Canelo carried that show. You look at the Fury Wilder, I don't know how much that did, 700 probably. But the thing is with that, Wilder was also a big star there. You know, so Fury wasn't carrying that show. You know, so for me personally, I think Tyson Fury's definitely grown over the last couple of years, but I don't think he's the face of boxing. I know ESPN like to say he's the biggest star in the sport, Frank Warren. I don't think he's bigger than Canelo. I think AJ's probably bigger than Fury, and AJ's not. And thing is with AJ's a massive star, and globally, again, he might be more well-known than Canelo. The problem is AJ's not as good a fighter as Canelo. And AJ's... Look, here's a problem. You may be big, right? Sometimes you're bigger than what actually your fighting abilities. So Canelo Alvarez, the level of fame and popularity he's got, he deserves, because he's that good a fighter. He's that great. And sometimes, you know, you're a great fighter, but you don't have much popularity. For example, Andre Ward. Andre Ward was a great, like, you'd say Andre Ward is a much better fighter than AJ. But look at the popularity that AJ had. Even Andre Ward and, for example, someone like Amir Khan. Look at the social media numbers that Amir Khan has. Compare that to Andre Ward. It's not even comparable. But Andre Ward was a better fighter. So this is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes popularity, fame, right, doesn't mean you're necessarily the best fighter. Because like I said to you, how many fighters in the sport are better than AJ? But how many fighters in the sport are bigger stars than AJ? You know, so Canelo's a big star, but Canelo deserves that stardom because he's that great. He's the best fighter in the sport. So if he is the best fighter, you know, if he is the best fighter in the sport and he is the face of boxing, he probably deserves that. But sometimes you can have a guy like AJ, right, who's a massive, massive star, right? But he's actually not as good. You know, you could probably say that with Amir Khan as well. He probably wasn't as good as how big he was, famous-wise. And that's probably because he had his people, community behind him. He had a massive fan base. And same with AJ. Fury's really good. He's really, really good. And he's charismatic and he's a personality. So people like that can actually fight and back it up. They become big. Right? They become huge. So I don't think Fury has got the data, or he has done the numbers, or he has done enough pay-per-view events or record-breaking pay-per-views to compete with Canelo, because Canelo's got a track record of doing huge, huge numbers. So you can't really compare Fury and Canelo Alvarez at this point, because Canelo Alvarez has got a track record of smashing big numbers in America. Although, like I said, Tyson Fury did some big numbers in America with Wilder. But again, that was a super fight with the American heavyweight champion. So, you know, you have to, you know, that was a name. You know, Canelo could fight nobody and do big numbers. And that's the difference. So Canelo, without doubt, in America is the biggest star by a country mile. You know, in terms of like globally, can Canelo do the same kind of pull? I think he could do big. Like, I'm not sure he could do. Could he do million pay-per-view? It'd have to be against somebody that's a credible fight or credible name. He won't be able to that bigger numbers because in the UK. But I definitely think Canelo could do. I definitely think Canelo could do decent numbers here, even on pay-per-view. For example, if they put a pay-per-view event on with Canelo here, but it'd have to be somebody that could fight, somebody that is well known. You know. Then it would do big numbers without question. But yeah, I think Canelo, the stardom he has in America, I don't think there's any star as big as that. Because remember, it's hard to judge for us because here the pay-per-view price is completely different to what it is there. So of course the pay-per-view, I know that America's a much bigger country, but that's irrelevant. At the end of the day, if the price is so high and they're doing 700,000, 700,000 people, and the pay-per-view price is 100 quid. The money that they're making is far more than the money that they're making here in the UK of 25 quid. The 25 quid, if you times that by 1 million, that's only 25 million. Whereas if they do 1 million pay-per-view numbers in America, so that's $70 million, which might be about 50 million quid. So you're looking at almost double. Do you see what I mean? If they do the same numbers. And by the way, here, in the UK, we're not doing 1 million pay-per-view buys. Only the real massive shows do 1 million pay-per-view buys. Like these are humongous. Like you'd have to be a massive fight, like Klitschko Joshua, which was huge. That did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. So look, I think Fury is a massive star. I think over the last couple of years, he's definitely become one of the biggest stars in the sport. Fury's definitely one of the biggest stars in the sport, but he's not bigger than Canelo, in my opinion. That's just my thought process. I think Tyson Fury is obviously more charismatic. He's more out there, but I think Canelo doesn't have to do any of that, and he's still such a big star. He has still such a big fan base and such a big. So many of his fans support him. I think it's hard to compete with that. I think it's generally hard. Like Marquez was massive, Barrera was massive. All these guys did decent numbers because they have a country that supports them. Manny Pacquiao was massive. He had a country that supported him. But again, when these guys fought, it was a lot of the backing was from people in America. People in America support buy the fights, and that's where the pay-per-view numbers, I'm pretty sure, is the pay-per-view numbers in America that they quote to us. Oh, it's done 700,000 buys. but Canelo's got a huge fan base. He's got a huge fan base in America, Mexico. You can't really, it's difficult to compete with that. And I think Canelo's been the highest earner. Having said that, you know what? A couple years ago, I think it was a year or two ago, Canelo actually wasn't the highest earner. I think he had fought once and Fury might have fought twice. And Fury was actually the highest paid on Forbes, the highest paid athlete. That was because he did WWE that year, and then he had a fight with Wilder as well. So Tyson Fury over the last couple of years definitely has become a massive star. But I just don't think he's active enough. Like Canelo's fighting like every couple of months. So I don't really think you can, I don't think he can compete. But Tyson Fury is definitely a massive star. But Canelo for me in the sport of boxing is the biggest star. So yeah, I think I like Fury. I think Fury's done great for boxing. I think he's done great for the heavyweight division. I think he definitely, you know, put back life in the heavyweight division when, you know, the heavyweight division was dying and the Klitschko's were just dominating. He came and broke it. So Tyson Fury is unique in every sense, because if you look at it, he was the one that broke the Klitschko dominance and put some life back into the heavyweight division. Since before then, the heavyweight division was dead. Prior to 2015 was it when he fought him, 2016, whenever he fought him, right? The heavyweight division was dead. Literally, it was dead. And Tyson Fury was the one that came and put it into life. Even if Tyson Fury went on to achieve nothing after that, that achievement alone would have been, you know, massive. That would have been something that he could have been proud of for the rest of his life, that I beat Vladimir Klitschko. You know, I beat a 10-year reigning champion. So Tyson Fury is definitely a massive star and he deserves his flowers. But Canelo, for me, is the biggest star in the sport. Even over Tyson Fury and even over AJ, you know. So that's my opinion. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.